Hello, everybody, and welcome to the July meeting of the Divorce Support Club, where I'm joined by Fiona Griffin from Ian Walker Family Law and also Carolyn Matravers from Bluebell Financial Management. Carolyn's come as a special guest today to give her perspective from a financial point of view. Today, we're going to talk about divorcing when you've been married a long time. I think all of us have quite a lot of clients in this position at the moment, and the press would say that this is an increasing demographic. So we thought it was really important to cover this off in our sessions. So I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. If you can give me a thumbs up when that appears, that'd be great. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so just very quickly introduce myself. I'm Claire Macklin. I'm a breakup and divorce coach, master NLP practitioner. I used to be a lawyer. I've been divorced twice, and I'm a single mum to two boys who are now in their late teens, and author of a book, Breakup from Crisis to Confidence, which you can get hold of on my website or Amazon. So I set up with Ian Walker Family Law, the Divorce Support Club, a couple of years ago now, and our goal is to help you concentrate on you, to find calm, to get clarity around perhaps the things that are worrying you, because we know that going through a divorce is be a really overwhelming process. To focus on what you can control, see options and choices, communicate more effectively, and also ultimately to create a new and exciting future that you're proud of and pleased to be living. So today, surviving divorce after a long marriage. Now, that can bring up all kinds of different things. It might be that you not only going through a divorce, you also perhaps have elderly parents who you are having to take care of. It may mean that your retirement plans or your retirement dreams completely and utterly change. It might be that you're already retired and things are going to have to change. It might be perhaps that you've had very clear roles in your relationship to date. And so you have done particular things for maybe 20, 30 years, and your spouse has done other things, and you're perhaps uncomfortable about doing the things that they used to do. So there are scary things around that, perhaps. It may also be that you have quite complicated finances. You've got a lifetime of possessions. You've got a family home, perhaps, that you've lived in for a very long time. And some of these things can make you feel really lost. They can make you feel really rudderless. And it can have an effect on the wider family as well. Perhaps your children, although they're grown up, are highly affected by this. And perhaps you're really scared about a disparity of income. Perhaps you have been the person who stayed at home looking after the children, maybe has worked part-time, while your spouse has been the main breadwinner. And that can be really scary too. So there may be a lot of fear when you are facing a divorce after a long marriage. So what we want to do today is I'd like to give you some coaching tips which can help you to handle things. And then Carolyn is going to give us some financial tips and hints that can help you with that aspect. And then Fiona will give us any legal tips that she feels would be most helpful. So the first thing that I always say to any clients that I'm working with who are coming out of a very long marriage is to gather your support network together. Now that has various aspects to it. So first of all, emotional support, because divorce is very much an emotional issue and it has legal and financial consequences. So get that emotional support. Your friends and family are going to be really important, particularly your radiators rather than your drains. Now I talk about this a lot. So your radiators are the people who help you to feel good about yourself. They're the people who buoy you up. They're perhaps the people who make you laugh, who give you what you need. The drains are those who you come away from feeling low or feeling exhausted. And my advice is to contact your radiators, avoid your drains. You don't need to be drained right now. Avoid the energy vampires. Those are the people who suck your energy away. And the drama llamas, who are the people who really only want to get together with you so they can find out what's happening and gossip about you behind your back. Also, the if I were you brigade, I would do this. Or when I got divorced, I did X, Y, and Z. Remember, these people are not you. They're not in your situation. They're not in your position, and their divorce is probably entirely different to yours. So try not to listen to that advice. And also remember that your friends and family may well have very strong emotions about what's happening for you themselves. And that may mean that they're not impartial and they may not always give you the best advice. And then you'll also need professional advice. So get specific advice for your situation, whether that's legal or financial or about your pensions, perhaps business valuations or house valuations, and so on. Get the right advice for you and get that support network in place. The next thing I want to talk about is anchors to find calm, because my experience of working with people who are coming out of very long marriages is that there's often a great sense of panic. This is a massive change. You may have been with this person for 20, 30, even 40 years. So having some anchors to be able to feel calm is really important. The first one is your breath. Your breath is always with you and it's free. So just a couple of really simple breathing strategies that you can use. One is to hold your hand like this and breathe in as you move your finger up, breathe out as you move it down, in and out, in and out, in and out. And you can do that as many times as you need to bring some calm back into your body. Another really good one is to breathe and count. So if you breathe in and count to 5 in your head, hold it for 2, and breathe out and count to 7. And maybe do that 3 or 4 times. You should notice your heart rate starts to go down, and hopefully the panic will stop swirling around your head. The beauty of that one is that you can't breathe, you can't think and count at the same time, so it interrupts your thoughts. A second anchor perhaps to find calm is to soothe where you're feeling the panic. So maybe you feel the panic in your stomach. So put your hand on your stomach and just gently rub where you feel the panic coming, or perhaps it's here on your chest. Gently rub where you feel it. You could also perhaps go outside, ground your feet on the grass and breathe. Do a combination of these things. Grounding your feet on the grass is surprisingly relaxing, so give it a go. You could also close your eyes and go to a safe place in your mind. So if you have somewhere, maybe it's a memory, maybe it's somewhere imagined. For me, I always go to a beach. I went to Australia a few years ago and sat on a beautifully white sandy beach. There was no one else there, and all I could hear was the waves. So when I feel a little bit of panic, that's where I go in my mind. I take myself back there, I close my eyes, feel the sand beneath my feet. I can hear the waves, and that helps me to feel calm. And a couple of things to remember: all feelings are transitory. They come and they go, they rise and they fall. So any feeling of panic is not going to stay forever. It will come and it will go. And another thing to remind yourself of, perhaps when you're breathing in and you're holding your breath for the 2, just remind yourself that in this moment, you're safe and you will be okay. And you can also surf the wave of your feelings. So as we're saying, the waves rise and fall. So next time you feel perhaps a wave of feeling coming to you, pretend that you're on a surfboard, you're paddling out into the sea, and you can see that wave coming towards you. Turn your board and ride that wave into the beach. The wave always lands on the beach, and you can then get off your board. You can imagine yourself sitting, feeling the sun on your back, and slowly breathe yourself back to calm. So surf those feelings, and remember, they do always, they come and they go, and they never stay forever. The next really important thing is to work out what you can and can't control. And I think Carolyn will probably refer to this as well later. You can control all the things that are yours. So your words, your thoughts, your behaviors, your decisions and ideas and reactions, your body language. That's where your zone of power is. So put your focus on you rather than trying to get your ex-partner to understand or get your ex-partner to realize how you're feeling. You can't control other people's thoughts or ideas or words or actions. And if you try to, you will probably end up in a zone of frustration. So one of my favorite mantras, control the controllables. So there are all sorts of things that you can control when you're going through a separation and divorce. You can control, for example, what you wear. So I would advise you always to wear clothes that help you to feel how you want to feel, rather than how you actually feel right now. I remember when I was going through my divorce, what I really wanted to wear was a scabby old tracksuit. What I actually put on was a nice pair of jeans and a top because it made me feel better. You can control what you watch on TV and what you listen to on the radio or in the music that you choose. So avoid all those sad songs. Listen to things that help you to feel better. Perhaps listen to things that make your feet want to move. And I would avoid watching really heavy drama as well. Watch stuff that perhaps makes you laugh, that's a bit light-hearted. And you can also control how you stand and how you walk. And actually, how you stand and walk can make a big difference to how you feel. So next time you're walking along, rather than looking at the ground, look up, look at the horizon, look at the buildings next to you, look at the trees, listen to the birds. And when you walk upright with your shoulders back, you will start to feel better. You can control what you look at on social media too. So please don't follow your ex. Don't look at what they're doing. You don't need to know that anymore. In many cases, it's a really good idea just to come off social media altogether so that you're not seeing that stuff. You can also control your routine. So when you get up, what you do when you get up. If you don't have a routine when you get up, now's a really good time to start having one perhaps. So maybe when you get up, do some stretching, look out of the window. I say hello to the world. My neighbours probably think I'm mad, but I stand in the window and I do a big stretch and I say hello to the world every morning. And you can control your bedtime routine as well. And that's really important for sleep. Make sure that you're not looking at your phone too late, that you're perhaps having a nice soothing drink, that you're going to bed at a reasonable time and so on. So you can control your routine and also your environment. So perhaps change your duvet cover, move some photos around, get some new cushions, whatever it is that helps you to feel that the space you're in feels a little bit different. You can also control who you spend time with. So going back to your support network, which friends are you spending time with? How do they make you feel? And who you're listening to, you can control that too. You can control whose advice you take and also the story you tell. So I worked out really early on in my divorce that I could tell this story about a woman whose husband left and how dreadful it was and how terrible things were and how painful it was. Or I could tell a story about somebody whose husband left, but who was determined to pick themselves up, who was determined to swim and not sink. And then I started to look for evidence of that. And I started to find it. And then I could talk about how I'd mowed the lawn for the first time. Or I was able to cook with ginger now when my ex-husband hated ginger, couldn't cook with it, and I love it. So you can change the story that you tell. And you can also change how you talk and treat yourself. So be kind to you. That's so important when you're going through a separation or a divorce. So you can control, as I said, your words, your actions, your responses. And in terms of responses, this is a really useful mantra. If you take nothing away from this other than this, stop, breathe, think, and act. That will give you time not to react angrily or with a very strong emotion. So stop and breathe and think before you act or respond. So another thing that often comes up when I'm working with clients who are going through a divorce after a very long marriage is overwhelm. So something that I do with clients who are feeling very overwhelmed is to brainstorm everything that you're worried about onto a big piece of paper. And then for each one of those things, ask, is this within my control? If it is, who could help me with it? What skills and resources do I have to handle it? When have I dealt with something like this before and what did I do? And what small steps could I take today or this week that would help me with that? If it's not within your control, put it to the side, put it in a box. You might need to take some advice on it from someone else, or you might need to have a conversation with someone else about it, but concentrate on the things that are within your control when you're feeling overwhelmed. Another quick tip, use your wow brain, not your owl brain. So if you imagine that you are climbing a mountain and you're halfway up this mountain, you can choose. You can look down the mountain and say, ow. Sorry, no, you can look up the mountain, got the wrong around. You can look up the mountain and say, ow, look what I've got left to do. It's going to be really, really, really hard. And I don't know how to take the next step. Or you can look down the mountain and you can say, wow, look how far I've already come. Look what I've already done. If you can't think of anything that you've already done, then here's some questions for you. What have I done this week? or this month that I'm proud of? Now, they could be little things like my mowing the lawn, or I remember going on a camping trip with my children and lighting a barbecue. What have I done that I'm proud of? Or what could I learn today so that I can do it better tomorrow? And really good question. What can I do now that I couldn't do before? So what have I already learned? And use those to work out what your next steps might be. Create this wow list, and keep it where you can see it all the time. So stick it on your fridge, stick it on your bathroom mirror, stick it by your bed, and keep doing these things, because that's how confidence grows. Confidence grows with doing things. And with each step forward, you are taking back control over your life. And lastly, just some really useful mantras. One step at a time. You can do anything, you can't do everything, and you certainly can't do everything all at once. And you don't need to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And I know that when you're at the beginning of a separation after a very long marriage, trying to get to the top of that staircase can feel absolutely impossible. So just focus on the one step that's right in front of you. And that's it from me. So what I will do is I'll stop sharing and I will hand over to Carolyn, who's going to give us some financial tips. Thank you, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you, Claire. And thank you, Claire and Fiona, for inviting me to participate today. And hello, everyone. Yes, I am just going to set up. Oh, there we go. So, hang on a second.
Is it working?
Just a second.
Okay.
There we go. Is that working?
Can't see it yet. Is it letting you share?
I thought it was. Just a second. Let me try again. And we practiced this as well.
Practiced this beforehand and it did work. Absolutely fine. Let me just check whether the settings are okay.
Let me just try again. Here we go. Share screen.
There we go. It's coming now.
Yeah, we're there?
We're there.
Super, super. Lovely.
Perfect.
Okay. So yeah, so welcome everyone, and it's just really interesting to hear what you've really been talking through, and there's so much synergy with listening to you, Claire, as to approaching the situation that people find themselves in. And so you'll see that the heading here, what could happen if you don't get your ducks in a row. As Claire said, there are actually a number of different sort of mantras that she has, and getting your ducks in a row is something that's really important from Bluebell's perspective, and I'll talk you through that with you in a little bit more detail later on. So who am I? I'm Carolyn Matravers. I'm a chartered financial planner, and I've been working in financial services for over 26 years. I founded Bluebell Financial Management in October 2022. So I've always specialised in providing advice to and support to private individuals, but I've always focused on those in later life and supporting those and their individuals and their families. Why Bluebell? Well, actually, where I live and where I'm based, we have a wonderful Bluebell wood, but also when I was choosing a name for the business and the type of services and support that Bluebell provides, a bluebell denotes kindness, nurture, caring and support. And so it just absolutely fitted the bill. So basically, as you can see here, bringing together empathy and expertise, Bluebell Financial Management sets standards, new standards in the provision of later life services. Throughout the West Country, we assist vulnerable clients and their families, presenting a suite of services and delivering a level of support that is simply not offered elsewhere. Our full circle approach ensures that those we help are both aided and equipped to make informed care and financial decisions both now and into the future. So Bluebell was very much born from recognising that actually whatever challenges individuals and their families face, it's really important sometimes to have the right team, people around you who are able to help you to join the dots, to move forward, to break things down into bite-sized chunks. Now, as far as Bluebell services are concerned, we have 3 core services. And again, talking about the subject matter today and imagining someone actually going through a challenging time, a separation and a divorce, our approach is very much making sure, first of all, are you receiving everything to which you are entitled? And so we have the 3 core services: attendance allowance, lasting powers of attorney, and the concierge service. And I'm just going to talk you through how they fit in, and particularly to the scenario that we're talking about today. So attendance allowance is a fixed source of income, and it's actually available to anyone over state pension age who requires some form of assistance with certain activities of daily living. So this is a really important point to be aware of, because very commonly when I'm talking to any clients, any individuals with their families, there are a lot of myths surrounding attendance allowance. So people will often say to me, I don't have a carer, or I've got assets, I've got a property, I've got some investments, or I've got a good source of pension income, I can't be entitled. And that's simply not the case. The really important point, if you do find yourself in a change of circumstance, or indeed you're actually listening to this and you're thinking about loved ones as well, perhaps family members, the key criteria for eligibility for attendance allowances: are you over state pension age, and do you require some form of support to live independently day to day? And so that level of support could be a network of neighbours, it could be family members who are there to ensure that you actually are remaining safe and secure. It doesn't mean someone has to live with you. So it's really important to understand that the criteria is much broader than a lot of people realise. It's assessed on an individual basis, and most importantly, it's paid tax-free, and there's very little benefits that are paid tax-free. And if you find yourself in a situation where suddenly income is very much at the forefront of your mind, it's really important to, going back to another one of my favoured, and Claire has mentioned, controlling the controllables, if as a first step, making sure that actually you're receiving all of the income, that can make a real difference. And so any income fixed is very welcome. As I've said, property savings and income itself, pension income, have no impact upon this benefit. It's purely based upon state pension age and your support network and your environment. So the low rate of attendance allowance is £68.10 per week, and that's obviously £3,500 per annum, and the high rate is £101.75 per week. So these are really important strategies to incorporate when you are really looking to forge a different direction as a result of a change of circumstance. So that's really important, and we're very happy to assist and talk through people and explain how they can claim that benefit, something that you can do directly yourself, and you can go directly to the Gov website. There could be a charity, or there could be the local authority that assists, and it's something as a fourth option that Bluebell Financial Management are very happy to assist with as well for a fixed fee. So it's all about knowing what your options are and knowing where to look. So as we move on, the next really important aspect are making sure that the important paperwork is in place. So we will talk about lasting powers of attorney, and the approach is very much based upon the history of having worked with so many different clients and different vulnerable situations over the last 25 plus years. So very much our approach is looking at the purpose of having a lasting power of attorney if life goes off course. And again, it's real life worked examples of what could happen when nothing is in place. And really, our approach is very much a case of trying to learn from each situation and supporting people as best we can, but then providing the information so that everyone is aware and prepared of what could happen. So you're equipped and you can make what are the right decisions for you. So very simply talking about the difference between the two types of lasting power of attorney and the importance of both. And I think the key point is that that actually a lot of people don't realise that if you know you have an appointed next of kin, they actually have no legal direction if you were to lose mental capacity or if you are unable to sign any paperwork. And so it's just making sure that you are aware of who you would want to step in and that you've got the right paperwork in place to enable that to happen. And also the understanding the purpose of it and not being scared of why you might be putting these documents in place, but actually being proactive and understanding you really want to protect your position and, most importantly, empower those around you to make sure they can support you if need be in the future. So in order to achieve that, we really always take time to understand the family dynamics, and really a key part of our service is encouraging and facilitating the difficult conversations. And Claire has obviously picked up on the aspects that she's been talking about. You know, these change of circumstances are very difficult. There's a height of emotion and some fantastic practical guidance that Claire gave there with regard to the different mechanisms, the toolkit, really making sure that actually you're able to maintain a very strong well-being and just try and control the situation. And this is where, when emotions are heightened and any breakdown of a relationship will have a ripple effect, as we know, and that in itself can bring out different characteristics of loved ones. So it's really important not only to assist with putting this important paperwork in place, but making sure the right individuals are selected and that the dynamic is going to work. And if family members don't get on, then that's absolutely fine. We can actually talk about how we can structure the document to make sure that it effectively works if it needs to be used in the future. And also we spend a lot of time providing guidance and support to help family members understand the role of an attorney and what might be expected of them. And I think the key point I make here is that often when there is a change of situation, there can be a desire to rush and do things as quickly as possible. But really it is breaking it down, as Claire said earlier, into, controlling the controllables, bite-sized chunks. It's having a to-do list. It's actually working through things in a very methodical way to make sure that, really looking at the ow and the wow, actually just working through and making sure that you look and you achieve what you need to achieve going forward. But part of the rebuilding and the direction is to make sure that you have got important documents in place and you've got the right people. And as I said, there could be family members who it might be they might stand out to you to be the most appropriate individuals to be attorneys, but just because you have 3 children, for example, it doesn't mean that A, they get on, or B, that actually they would particularly want to take on the role and responsibility. So it's really a two-way thing, delving down and making sure that you have got the right structure, and having those conversations early tends to dispel a lot of the history and the baggage and the whole whole sort of preconceptions that can be carried with us through life. And so it just gives that opportunity to talk about why you're putting this paperwork in place, who is most appropriate, and making sure that everyone's comfortable and has a voice. And we undertake mediation Zoom meetings to be able to assist to get the right fit for you. So the third service that we provide is the concierge service, and that's designed and tailored to meet individual needs. As I mentioned, I have dealt with 60 care situations over the over my period of supporting clients. And when I say care, it varies with the age of individual, the circumstances, but what I recognise in each client that I have worked with, that someone will value something different each time. We're not all the same, as Claire said, and whilst you can apply certain behaviours, you have to find out what works for you. And for some people, it could be there is a real fear of technology. Perhaps if actually you haven't managed finances, for example, or accessed bank accounts online, there could be a real fear of, gosh, I really need to know what has to be done. It doesn't mean you're not capable. It just simply means that you haven't been put in that position to do it before. So our concierge service is really recognizing that maybe you just need some support. Perhaps you want a second pair independent ears and eyes at a professional meeting. And Fiona meets very regularly with clients, and it could be that there are situations where it's not appropriate for family members to be present. Maybe they're geographically all over the place. Maybe it is a bit sensitive, but it doesn't mean that we're all very private. Health and finances remain a very private matter. So it could be you feel you want an extra pair of ears and eyes, but a friend is perhaps not most appropriate in that situation. So we recognise that it could be any aspect of support, and we're very happy to step in and basically provide that to help individuals and their families. So basically, we can be involved as little or as much as you like, and we're just happy to be there in the wings. As I said earlier, we're very much a part of your toolkit, and there if need be. But you don't know what you don't know, and it's important to know that there is support out there. So I've just got a case study, really, which is absolutely entirely relevant, and it's a lady that I supported several years ago. But the examples are that looking at her situation and the support that effectively could be provided. So this is Margaret, age 65, separated from her husband after 40 years of marriage. She lives alone, but she has 3 adult children, one of whom at the time was going through a divorce themselves. So this may be something that you can relate to. Working on a part-time basis, but has never actually worked full-time, has never managed the finances or been involved in the monthly outgoings. And again, this can be very common. It can be one part of a relationship where there are different roles. Suddenly, Margaret is faced with big and small financial decisions, which can feel incredibly overwhelming. And at the same time, we have a situation where her father, 95, is in hospital, having recently suffered a fall, and mother, 94, living with dementia. Their future is now uncertain, with care decisions that need to be made. Now, it may well be that anyone listening to this can certainly relate to actually that situation. And going back to controlling the controllables, what we don't know is what is happening around us. And with loved ones, and obviously as we all get older, our family members are getting older, and there can be outside influences which really can make it feel like a pressure cooker situation. And so what support are Bluebell able to provide in that situation? First and foremost, a listening ear, practical guidance on where to start. Once again, controlling the controllables. Working through practically income and expenditure. Now, we've also mentioned earlier about attendance allowance. Are you receiving everything to which you're entitled? Let's work through an expenditure questionnaire and create realistic assumptions together of what it might cost to run the household day to day. And it's not something that's going to be created overnight, but it's something that we collaborate on together to actually work out some realistic figures. So we keep it under regular review, providing empathy and support, which in turn builds confidence. And that's what's really important. It's a case of you can't be expected to know everything about everything, but actually, as I said, having the support network, gaining the ability to learn what needs to be done, and literally taking things one step at a time, and keeping it under regular review, as you said, Claire. It's really important going forward to apply that to finance. So an overall financial health check ensures that all the important paperwork is in place. So really making sure that the lasting power of attorneys are in place, and from a will perspective, from a professional perspective, making sure that they are in place as well. And I think really important, going back to the outside influences, our concierge service can provide ad hoc support regarding Margaret's parents' current situation and impending care needs, ensuring that everyone is prepared for the way ahead. And as a later life specialist, that again is an area that people do not necessarily realise, that there is support out there, and we're able to provide levels and guidance from all aspects of care funding. And sometimes it's actually being that one step removed and having someone who is completely outside of the situation. The three of us obviously on this call today are all separate of your personal situation, but it does bring some perspective, and it is important that from Bluebell's perspective, I'm able to bring the benefit of experience, but I'm not emotionally involved, and that can make a real difference. And trying to, as Claire said, calm down the situation. It doesn't matter whether it's your personal situation or a situation that has been brought upon you as a result of the declining health of parents, for example. I tend to apply a similar approach, but able to add my experience with the care funding side of things to try and help what can feel like, as I said, a pressure cooker situation. So really, just really to complete the services, and hopefully that's sort of given you a flavour of where we can fit. You know, perhaps you can think of someone who needs to get their ducks in a row. That is something that, as I said, it's really important. Just trying to make sure that you have everything in place that needs to be the case. There's no cost for an initial meeting or any obligation to engage. And I'm delighted that on meeting initially with Fiona and then with Claire, they felt that there was some merit in joining today's discussion. Geography is not an issue, of course. With modern technology, face-to-face meetings can take place, or Zoom or Teams. We recognise that family are all over the world, but actually the wonders of modern technology enable us to arrange meetings at any time of the day, and I'm very sensitive to that. And also I think it's really important, if you are going through a change of situation later in life, the impact, and I think almost the real significance of making sure that if you have family members and children, that they are involved and they have the opportunity to be involved, and that's really quite important. So we work directly with clients and their families, but we also do an awful lot of information talks, and very much enjoy going along to local businesses, clubs, voluntary organisations and community groups, just to raise awareness, because, as I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. So really, just in summary, we can be part of your toolkit, as obviously Claire and Fiona are as well. We work alongside other professionals, including solicitors, accountants and financial planners, those who recognise the need to provide a greater level of client care and support to vulnerable individuals and their families that extend beyond their own services. So vulnerability, as we know, can present itself in very different ways, and it can be a temporary or a longer term journey, and we recognise that and are happy to be a part and provide the support and work alongside other professionals. So there's just simply a recent quote from a client. It was actually a family member that I assisted with regard to the attendance allowance, and that's me. So Carolyn Matravers, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. One thing that really struck me actually when you were talking was around the income and expenditure. You talked about income and expenditure and helping people get clarity around that, because that's something that I see clients struggle with a lot, particularly if they they've not been used to being in control of the finances. That can be a really, really daunting thing to get a grip on. You know, what is your income, what's your expenditure, what are your needs, and that can be really helpful process to go through for many people. So thank you. It's really useful to know that you do that kind of thing as well. Um, Fiona, could I just ask you from a legal perspective, is there anything that you would add in terms of advice for somebody who's coming out of a long marriage?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I would pick up some of the comments that yourself and Carolyn have already made, particularly to remember that every case is very different. No marriage is the same, and therefore no separation or divorce is the same. And I think people who are coming out of long relationships, they've often got family or very well-intentioned friends who've been through similar, or feel that they've been through something similar, and are therefore a fount of all sorts of wisdom. And what I would say to anybody who's coming out of a long relationship is get early advice, whether that is and support, whether that is from somebody like Carolyn, somebody like yourself, or from legal advice. It's also really key, even if you're not ready to implement that advice, even if you don't think you're going to be ready to implement it for 6 months or 12 months, have it in your back pocket. It can't do any harm. What we do experience is that quite often there might be one of the couple who say, no, we don't need to involve solicitors. We don't need to involve financial advisors. We know about our circumstances. We've lived our circumstances. We don't need that advice. And that's always a worry to me, because advice is just that, it's advice. It doesn't mean to say that you have to take any particular action. You are just putting that advice in your toolkit, and you've got it there to reflect on. So I would say never be afraid to arm yourself with some advice from a professional person.
I think that's a really important point, actually, Fiona, and I see that a lot, where one person, particularly in the couple, and as often the person who has had the financial knowledge or does have the financial control, who is saying we don't need to take advice on this. And that's always a bit of a red flag for me when I hear a client say that. And I always say, please go and get some financial advice for yourself and some legal advice for yourself, because there's a process to follow here. And that process isn't just listen to what the person who's always had the financial control is saying is fair. It doesn't work like that, does it?
No, absolutely. And you've got to take a bit of a protectionist view of yourself, sadly. That person may not have your best interests at heart, even though you've been a partnership for a long time, and you've gone through life's challenges together. That in that moment, that person may not have your best interests at heart. And as I say, it can't do any harm just to find out a different point of view, even if you don't act on it, and even if you don't implement their suggestions, it cannot hurt. The other thing that I would want to say is that take things at your own pace. Coming out of a long relationship from a legal perspective, nothing is actually going to happen that quickly. And again, that's something that we see, is that one party may be in a really different emotional space vis-a-vis the separation, and they might want to push things on and get frustrated when the other person doesn't want to take things at exactly that pace. But legally speaking, these cases do take a little while for us to resolve. 12 months to 18 months is not at all uncommon, starting from the beginning and point of separation right through to sorting everything out. So you don't have to be panicked or jumped into making decisions if you're not ready to do so. The other thing that I would want to say is that financial information will be available to you. So if, as Claire says, one person has always taken the role, not because there's anything the matter with that or it's been a controlling, although of course it might be, but just because, I always take the bins out, I mow the lawn, and I also look after the finances, and I do the cooking and the washing and the ironing. That's fine. That's common for a lot of couples. It doesn't mean to say you've been naive or stupid or allowed somebody to do that. It's just the role that you've adopted within your relationship. But don't let that worry you. During the course of discussions with a family solicitor, the financial information that you need will be made available, and that is by hook or by crook, I'm afraid. So even if you know, we'd always ask for it to be given voluntarily by the person who has control of it, but if they're not willing to be cooperative, then there are methods and ways in which that information can be obtained. So, you know, don't worry about that. Even if you walk in the door saying, I'm sorry, I really don't know anything much about our financial circumstances, that's absolutely fine. We can help you to build up a picture to the point at which you're comfortable to start making the financial decisions. And no decisions are going to be made until you are in that space that you do feel that you've got enough information to make decisions that you need to make with help. I want to just touch on how we actually go about resolving the finances after any sort of separation, but I think particularly with a long marriage separation, there are lots of options. You know, we're not here to create problems and create war where there doesn't need to be. You know, we're really sensitive to the fact that you may have family, children, even grandchildren, and we don't want to set up two camps of opposition. So there's family mediation, where a family mediator would meet with you both and help to facilitate your conversations. What family mediation can't do, however, is give you legal advice. So you would take your legal advice separately from your family mediation service. Then there's also a collaborative law, which is where you each have a collaborative lawyer available and in the room with you, and all meetings, all discussions happen in a four-way basis so that you both are receiving the same legal advice at the same time. And then we've recently been given the authority and undertaken some training to offer a new service, which is called Resolution Together, which is where one lawyer acts for both parties. And this is quite a revolutionary new service for legal advisors to be able to give. It does require us to go through quite a detailed assessment to make sure that the couple who want to undertake resolution together are suitable. But again, it's designed to help to maintain as much of that relationship as we possibly can, maintain a relationship of trust, so that we could not only resolve the things that the couple wish to resolve about their separation, but also ensure that they can still attend their grandson's christening when it comes around, without, you know, a feeling that one party can't go if the other person is there, and that sort of thing. So there are lots of options. You know, it doesn't have to be a standard litigation, although of course we can do that. And I think that's an important point when you're starting out on a separation journey, is your mind automatically, I think, goes to the worst case scenario, but actually there are lots of better case scenarios that we can help you to achieve. After a long marriage, there are three really important aspects in terms of the financial implications, and those are the income, both immediate and longer term decisions around income, capital division, so the division of realisable capital such as properties and cash assets, and pension provision. And I want to pick up what Carolyn was saying about preparing that budget. That's a really key part of the work that we do as well, is help you to work out what are your income needs going to be, both immediately, taking into account the standard of living you've had, but also, of course, taking into account that we're now making two households out of the assets and income that previously made one household. So we look realistically, but with the standard of living that you enjoyed in mind. The court, I think it's important to note as well that the court does have the power to award maintenance for life. I think people often don't realise that, but it is an order you can ask the court to make. It only happens in very, very specific circumstances these days, but it is available. So again, I would say, if one person is threatening, making threats with regard to income, just be aware that it's not just selling the house and dividing it up. It's these other aspects as well. Income aspects and pension aspects are as equally as important as what are we going to do with the house, and shouldn't in any way be overlooked. Quite often with older or longer relationships, we would look to provide income, maybe by maintenance, until pension provision became available. So it will be looked at and make sure there are no gaps in which you're going to fall. And then pension provision finally is something that mustn't be overlooked in the separation after a long relationship. And again, that's a thing where we would add to your toolkit advice from a pension advisor, or even it might be appropriate to get a pension actuary on board to help you look at the pensions. So those are, we're a bit like the conductor of an orchestra. We would bring on board different help from different people at the right time in the discussions.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Fiona. I think especially with the clients that I've worked with who've been in very long marriages and who are perhaps maybe in their 50s and are maybe or even very near to retirement, that kind of advice around getting clarity on your current situation and also on your projected needs, it's so important. And what I see in my practice is that a lot of the people who come to talk to me don't really understand all the different things that can come into it. So getting the right advice from the right people at the right time is absolutely crucial and can help you make really good informed decisions, because those decisions will affect the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life. It's really important to get that advice at the right time.
Absolutely. And I suppose one thing that we should mention as well, of course, because as you said, you want to create a circumstance where people go off into the future, and we shouldn't ignore that. And I think I would just highlight the need for you to consider taking advice if you are then entering into new relationships.
Yes.
Look at things like cohabitation agreements or even prenuptial agreements. I know most people I see say, never again, I'm never going down that road again. But honestly, if I had £1 for every time I heard that,
I probably said that after my first divorce and then got remarried and divorced again. So I can vouch for never saying never on those things.
And of course, if you've been through a difficult separation, you then want to protect whatever you've gained through that separation or managed to keep through that separation. You don't want to lose it the next time around. So yes, prenups and cohabitation agreements, don't forget. And wills, of course.
Yes, of course. Very important. So one thing that came up when in terms of wills is often, if you're entering into a second, I mean, this is jumping ahead, but entering into a new relationship and you want to protect family money, family assets for your children, for example, it's really worth taking advice on those points as well to make sure that what you want to happen is what will actually happen.
Yes, because don't forget, if you were to remarry, that would cancel out any previous will. So you do need to make sure that all of those legal documents are up to date and reviewed. Yeah. Yes. Well, absolutely fascinating. I hope that everybody listening has got information that has been really useful. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to email any of us. Carolyn, perhaps it's worth you telling our listeners how they can contact you, should they need to or should they want to?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Claire. So have a website, the Bluebell Financial Management website. Also, we have an active LinkedIn page and a Facebook business page as well. But also, I can be contacted through Fiona and Claire, and vice versa. I mean, what I was going to say, I think what's really been exciting for me, and I hope, and I'm sure will have come across from this session today, is that there is crossover. And I think the really important thing to take away from this is what we're all talking about are life skills and equipping yourself for the stage ahead. And I think it's really important as well that your trusted support network have these open lines of communication that we're talking about to ensure that you have with those around you, because I think the resistance that certainly that Fiona alluded to, that we can all come across, and that's something that is very common, that the resistance of you don't need to speak to a solicitor or to another professional, it can be that's a fear factor or a lack of knowledge. And I think all of we've spoken about today is about that empowerment, and it's exciting to know that there is the support there, but also that professionals are really willing to work together to support you on your journey. And I think that's really key. Have the right team with you is the message that I would leave from today.
Absolutely. Yes, totally agree. So if there's, one thing to take away from this is get your right team in place and use the right people to give the right advice at the right time. So that's it for today. And we will be back in August, when I think we're going to be talking about what to do if you've gone on a disastrous holiday and you think you may want to leave, or your partner says that they want to. So we will see you in August to talk about that. And all that remains for me is to say thank you so much, Carolyn, for coming to talk to us. And thank you, Fiona, as well.
Yeah,
thank you both.
Claire.
Thank you.